Herodotus and the Eastern Edge of the Known World, a modern reading of his account of India, Paktyike, and the Afghan Indus frontier. Herodotus of Halicarnassos, writing in the mid-5th century BCE, provides the foundational Western narrative of India and its peoples. His account in Books 3 and 7 of the Histories is a complex tapestry woven from threads of Persian imperial data, Greek philosophical inquiry, and the universal human fascination with the distant and the marvellous. A truly modern reading requires us to dismantle the anachronistic expectation of empirical reportage. Instead, we must reconstruct the epistemological landscape Herodotus inhabited, a world where the Achaemenid Empire functioned as a vast information-gathering apparatus, where Ionian science grappled with global diversity, and where the edges of maps were spaces for both wonder and ideological projection. This essay will expand upon the core themes, enhancing depth of analysis by situating Herodotus's Indian narrative within a richer historical, geographical, and intellectual context, examining not just what he said, but how such knowledge was possible and what it meant for his conception of the world. A. The Crucible of Knowledge, Persian Empire, Ionian Inquiry, and the dawn of world history. To understand Herodotus's India, one must first appreciate the revolutionary moment in which he wrote. The mid-5th century BCE was an era of unprecedented inter-regional connectivity, orchestrated by the Achaemenid Persian Empire. This polity was not merely a conqueror, but a systematizer of space, people, and knowledge. The Achaemenid informational state. The Persian Empire, stretching from the Aegean to the Indus, was a conscious architect of a unified world system. Its administrative genius provided the skeleton upon which Herodotus could hang his ethnographic flesh. The establishment of the satrapy of Hindush, Old Persian for India, derived from Sindhu, the Indus River, by Darius I was a seminal act of geopolitical definition. This was not a vague frontier, but a revenue-generating province, documented in trilingual inscriptions at Persepolis, Nakshi Rustam, and most authoritatively in the Bisitun inscription, where Hindush appears in Darius's list of subject lands. The empire's infrastructure was a vector for information. The royal road network, while not extending to the Indus, connected to subsidiary routes through Arachosia, Kandahar, and Drangjiana. The use of imperial couriers, Piradazish, and state inspectors, the king's eyes and ears, ensured a flow of reports to the centre. Herodotus's tribute list, specifically the 360 talents of gold dust from India, almost certainly derives from official Persian records, akin to the fortification and treasury tablets from Persepolis that meticulously log the movement of goods and people. The Ionian intellectual tradition. Herodotus was the heir to the Ionian history, inquiry, pioneered by thinkers like Thales, Anaximander, and Hecataeus of Miletus. This tradition was characterized by a rationalizing impulse to replace myth with reasoned argument, to map the world, oikoumene, and to explain human diversity through environmental causation. Hecataeus's Periodos Geis, Journey Around the Earth, was a crucial source, offering a schematic geography that likely incorporated Persian cartographic knowledge. For these Ionians, living under Persian rule in Asia Minor, the empire was a living laboratory of human customs. Herodotus fused this intellectual tradition with the Persian data stream. His method, collecting, historian, accounts, comparing versions, and sometimes adjudicating between them, was applied to the greatest reservoir of cross-cultural data the Mediterranean world had ever known. Channels of transmission, beyond official reports. The raw data for Herodotus at India flowed through multiple channels. 1. Military mobilization. The mustering of the Persian army for major campaigns, especially Xerxes' invasion of Greece, was a virtual ethnographic exhibition. Greek observers in Anatolia or those serving with Persian forces could see and describe Indian infantry, cavalry, and charioteers firsthand. The detailed description of their cotton garments, reed bows, and iron-tipped arrows has the ring of direct observation or veteran testimony. 2. Mercantile networks. Long before Persian conquest, trade links existed between the Mesopotamian world and the Indus Valley. Under Achaemenid peace, these intensified. The Hindush satrapy supplied gold, ivory, ebony, and apes to Susa and Persepolis. Traders plying the land routes from the Indus up through the Bolan or Khyber passes to Kandahar and beyond, or the maritime routes from the Indus Delta to the Persian Gulf carried goods and stories. Tales of marvels, of strange social practices, and of immense wealth would have circulated in ports and caravanserais, entering the Greek consciousness as traveller's lore. 3. Greek diaspora and mediation. After the Ionian Revolt, 499–494 BCE, many Greeks found themselves integrated into the Persian imperial sphere as mercenaries, artisans, doctors, and deportees. Figures like Democedes of Croton served at the Persian court. Such individuals moved within the imperial orbit and could have accessed high-level gossip and information about the empire's extremities. Herodotus's account is thus a sophisticated synthesis. It takes the formal administrative categorization of peoples from Persian ideology, where each dahu or people has its assigned tribute and role, and filters it through the Greek philosophical lens that sought to understand the underlying causes of human difference. B. Constructing extremity, India as an ecological and moral antipode. In the Greek spatial imagination, deeply influenced by Mesopotamian and Egyptian cosmographies, the world was organized concentrically. At the center lay the familiar, temperate Mediterranean, the realm of balanced nomos, custom law. The edges were zones of climatic and moral extremity, where the sun's fierce heat or the north's bitter cold produced monstrous races, inverted customs, and fantastical nature. The cosmological frame. Herodotus explicitly places India to the east, where the sun rises. This is a cosmological, not merely a cartographic statement. As the land closest to the rising sun, it was conceptually destined to be a land of excess, of heat, of size, of fertility, and of strangeness. This framing device allowed Herodotus to organize a disparate set of reports into a coherent intellectual schema. India became the archetypal edge territory, a place where the normal rules were suspended. Ethnography as ecological determinism. Herodotus masterfully correlates human culture with environment, a core tenet of Ionian science later formalized in the Hippocratic airs, waters, places. His India is not a monolith, but a meticulously categorized spectrum of ecological adaptations. Riverine societies. He describes Indians living in the marshy, low-lying areas of the Indus Plain, who eat raw fish caught from reed boats. This likely reflects knowledge of communities in the Indus Delta or the Punjab wetlands. Pastoral nomads. Other Indians are nomads who do not practice agriculture but herd animals. This corresponds to the pastoralist populations of the upland fringes, such as the regions of Gedrosia, Balochistan, or the Sistan Basin. Desert foragers. The desert Indians who eat raw meat, use animal skin clothing, and rely on wild grasses represent an adaptation to the arid zones of the Iranian-Indian frontier. Civilized agriculturists. He also notes settled, crop-growing Indians, an acknowledgement of the sophisticated farming communities of the Indus and Ganges basins known through Persian contact. This schema demonstrates Herodotus's analytical genius. He imposes order on bewildering diversity by making environment the explanatory key. There is no single Indian essence, only a series of rational human responses to extreme geographical conditions. See Nomos Basileus, the Indian frontier as philosophical provocation. The profoundest moment in Herodotus's Indian ethnography is the anecdote of King Darius and the funerary customs. By staging a confrontation between Greek revulsion at endo-cannibalism and the Calatian Indians' horror at cremation, Herodotus moves from cataloguing curiosities to staging a philosophical dialogue. The experiment in cultural relativism. The scene is a deliberate, almost laboratory-like experiment set up by the Persian king, the ruler of a world-spanning empire that contains this very plurality of customs. Darius's question, "For what price would you abandon your ancestral burial practice?" is a probe into the foundations of morality. The shocked responses reveal that these customs are not mere preferences but the bedrock of identity, experienced as natural and divine law. Pindar's maxim and its Herodotean application. Herodotus seals the lesson with Pindar's fragment, Nomos basileus panton. Custom is king of all. This is not a casual citation but the cornerstone of his relativistic anthropology. Nomos here means more than law. It signifies the entire culturally constructed framework of normalcy that shapes perception, judgment, and emotion. The Indian frontier, the zone of maximum difference, provides the starkest possible evidence for this thesis. If the most sacred practices of the centre, Greece, are seen as abominable from another equally valid perspective, then no culture can claim a monopoly on natural virtue. India thus becomes the ultimate mirror, forcing Greek readers to see their own practices as particular, not universal. The limits of relativism in an imperial world. It is crucial, however, to note that Herodotus's relativism operates in a world structured by Persian power. While customs may be equally valid in their own context, peoples are not politically equal. The Indians, for all the philosophical weight they carry, are still Hindush, a subject people paying tribute. Herodotus admires their warlike nature in the northwest, but this admiration is for their capacity as imperial subjects and soldiers. His relativism is cultural, not political. It questions Greek ethnocentrism, but does not necessarily challenge the hierarchical order of the Achaemenid Empire, which provides the stage for his inquiry. D. The grammar of wonder, paradoxography and the economies of the marvellous. The giant ants, the wool-growing trees, the gold-guarding griffins. These are the elements most frequently mocked. Yet to dismiss them is to misunderstand their function. They belong to the ancient genre of paradoxography, the formal recording of wonders, daumata, which served specific cognitive and narrative purposes. Wonder as a cognitive category. For Herodotus and his audience, the marvellous was a legitimate category of knowledge about distant spaces. Wonders were not falsehoods, but expected indicators of extreme distance. They marked the boundary where reliable, verifiable knowledge gave way to the reports of others. Herodotus's careful sourcing, the Persians say, "it is reported," is his way of signalling this epistemological shift. He is often not endorsing the marvel, but faithfully reporting the marvellous nature of the information that reaches him from the edge of the world. Rational kernels within the marvellous. Modern scholarship has successfully deciphered many of these wonders as rationalised misunderstandings or distorted reports of real phenomena. Gold-digging ants likely refers to the practice of collecting alluvial gold dust from the burrows of large marmots in the high-altitude deserts of the Hindu Kush or the Gilgit region. Persian miners observing this could have generated a tale of ant gold. Wool-growing trees, a straightforward description of the cotton plant, which was unknown in the Mediterranean at the time. Its product was literally a vegetable wool. Underground dwellers may refer to the use of cave dwellings or sophisticated underground irrigation systems, qanats, in the arid zones of Gedrosia or Arachosia, or to the reported cave monasteries of ascetics. These marvels often encode valuable economic data. The gold, the cotton, the strange beasts, all represent the exotic commodities that made India a land of fabled wealth in the Persian and Greek imagination. The wonder underscores the value. The political economy of the marvellous. There is a direct link between paradoxography and imperial ideology. The fantastical wealth of India, its gold acquired by supernatural means, justifies and glorifies the Persian Empire's reach. That such riches flow to the king in Susa is a testament to his power. The marvels are, in a sense, the symbolic tribute of the periphery to the centre's imagination. Herodotus, in recounting them, participates in this economy, translating Persian imperial boastfulness into Greek narrative form. The concrete frontier, Paktyike, Kaspatyros, and the realpolitik of the Hindu Kush. Amidst the sweeping descriptions of India as a whole, Herodotus provides a strikingly specific and sober account of one region, the Indians who are north of the rest of India, dwelling near the city of Kaspatyros and the Paktyike land, who resemble the Bactrians in their way of life. This passage is a crucial anchor to historical reality. Locating the frontier zone, Paktyike is almost universally derived from Paktha, an ancient tribal name appearing in the Rigveda, and refers to the region of the Pashtuns, the mountainous territories astride the modern Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Kaspatyros, or Kaspapyros in Hecateus, is more debated, but is generally placed in the vicinity of the Kabul River Valley, possibly near modern Kabul, or more speculatively, linked to Kashmir, Kashyapapura. This places Herodotus's description squarely in the critical transit zone between the Iranian plateau, Bactria, and the Indian subcontinent, the passes of the Hindu Kush, notably the Khyber. A hybrid population in imperial service. Herodotus' observations here are acutely political. These northern Indians are the most warlike of the Indians and are tasked with the perilous duty of collecting the gold and dust. This is no longer generic wonder-tale ethnography, but a precise description of frontier policy. Cultural hybridity, resembling the Bactrians, indicates a population heavily influenced by Iranian culture, likely through generations of contact, trade, and intermarriage. They were the cultural and political intermediaries of this frontier. The most warlike label. This is not a stereotype of barbarian ferocity, but a recognition of specialized military function. Mountain societies often develop fierce martial traditions due to endemic intertribal conflict and the demands of their terrain. The Achaemenids, like all empires, sought to harness this capability, employing them as frontier guards, gardu, or as specialized troops in the imperial army. Their warlike nature made them both a potential threat and a valuable asset. Imperial corvée labor, the assignment of the gold collection duty, is significant. It shows the Persian mechanism of extracting wealth from difficult, marginal territories, not through direct administration, but by imposing a specific heavy labor obligation on the local population. This was a common imperial strategy, converting frontier peoples into responsible agents of their own exploitation. This passage reveals Herodotus at his most reliable, reporting on the concrete administrative realities of a specific imperial frontier, likely sourced from Persian military or logistical records concerning the strategically vital Indus-Oxus corridor. Mobilized diversity, the Indian contingent in the Persian war machine. Herodotus's catalogue of Xerxes' army in Book 7 is a monumental effort to comprehend the scale and diversity of the Persian Empire through its military manifestation. The Indian contingent is described with a level of detail that underscores its importance as a distinct and formidable element. Ethnographic precision as military intelligence. The description is meticulous. They wore cotton clothing and carried cane bows and iron-tipped arrows. Some of the cavalry drove chariots drawn by horses or wild asses. Every element here is verifiable and significant. Cotton, karpasos, was an Indian specialty. reed or bamboo bows were typical of the subcontinent. The use of both chariots, a legacy of Vedic warfare, and cavalry demonstrates a composite military tradition. The mention of wild asses, likely onagers, for chariots speaks to local adaptation and resource use. This is not poetic invention, it is the kind of detailed observation made by a soldier or a military attaché. The ideology of the imperial parade. The mustering of the army was a ritual of power-listing. All the peoples in their national dress with their native weapons was a way for the Persian king to display his cosmic sovereignty. Herodotus's catalogue translates this imperial ideology for a Greek audience. By carefully distinguishing the Indians from the eastern Ethiopians, likely Dravidian or tribal populations from central southern India, he replicates the Persian logic of enumeration. The empire does not create a homogenized mass. It celebrates and mobilizes difference within a strict hierarchy. The Indians, in their distinctive garb, are a living testament to the empire's reach to the very edge of the world. Their presence in Greece for Herodotus's audience would have been a shocking and tangible proof of that global reach. India as a composite concept, frontier, resource, and mirror. Synthesizing these expanded analyses, we can now define Herodotus's India not as a place, but as a multivalent concept operating on several interconnected levels within his world historical project. The geopolitical and economic frontier. For the Persian Empire, Indus was the ultimate satrapy, the richest in tribute, the most distant, and the one that most clearly defined the limits of territorial control. It represented both the maximum extension of power and the practical boundary of direct assimilation. Herodotus captures this perfectly. India is a place from which immense wealth is systematically extracted, but whose peoples remain irreducibly different, organized for imperial utility but not transformed into Persians. The intellectual and moral frontier. For the Greek thinker, India was the ultimate test case for theories of human society. It provided the most extreme data points for environmental determinism. It forced the most profound questions about cultural relativism. It was where reliable knowledge shaded into legitimate wonder. In this sense, India was the laboratory where Herodotus could conduct his most ambitious experiments in understanding humanity as a whole. The narrative and imaginative frontier. Finally, for the storyteller, India was a gift. It supplied the wonders that captivated an audience, the exotic details that fleshed out a global panorama, and the dramatic contrast that threw the familiar Greek world into sharper relief. The stories of India, whether sober or fantastic, served the greater narrative purpose of making the histories a truly ecumenical work. A story not just of Greeks and Persians, but of the entire known world in collision. Conclusion: Herodotus's legacy between world history and world myth. Herodotus's account of India, Paktyike, and the Afghan Indus frontier stands as a foundational document in the Western engagement with Asia. It is the first major attempt to bring a radically alien civilization into a coherent frame of understanding, using the best tools of the time, imperial geography, rationalizing inquiry, and the enduring power of story. A modern reading, expanded in depth and historical context, reveals that his mistakes are often more revealing than his accuracies. The gold-digging ants tell us about the economics of frontier extraction and the distortion of long-distance reportage. The focus on Paktyke's warlike nature reveals the mechanics of Achaemenid frontier management. The ethical parable of Darius and the Calassians establishes a mode of cultural analysis that remains relevant. Herodotus did not see a nation called India, nor did he describe it with modern fidelity. Instead, he constructed an intellectual artifact of immense power, a vision of the East as a land of infinite diversity, profound challenge to parochial certainty, and inexhaustible fascination. In doing so, he established the patterns of wonder, analysis, and misunderstanding that would shape Europe's view of India for the next 2 millennia. His India is a mirror held up to the limits of ancient knowledge, and in its reflective surface, we see not only the distant Indus, but also the inquiring, ambitious, and wonderfully human mind of Herodotus himself, straining to see to the very edge of his world.